Hey everyone, it's Josh, J Vintage Honda Minis, East Orlando. We're going to initiate you guys on gasket removal. I've done it enough times to kind of hone in on the skill of removing the gaskets. This is going to come from a video of limited tools. I did a video on the ultrasonic cleaner. I use that as a method to help get the gaskets broken down. The heat from the ultrasonic machine plus the additional heat element that I add to it really helps kind of boil the gaskets and help break those things down if you let it sit there in that solution for a while. So that tremendously helps with getting these softened up. They even lift off for the most part. But if you're just attacking this job with some minimal tools, this is going to be the approach I would recommend. So let's just kind of go over it, and then we'll do some demo samples of the methods and tools that you'll use to effectively remove the gasket, but also leave, especially with these cases, aluminum, leave your base metal intact without marring or gouging. That's the most important thing is these. I focus on the Mini Trail horizontal 4-stroke engines, so of course these have the center case gaskets. I know there are some engines that utilize different methods of bringing cases together, but for this example, these are aluminum, cast aluminum cases, and paper gaskets. So I'll go ahead and show you for the bare minimum what you're going to want to be successful at removing gaskets on the cylinder head, the jug, the case. So first off, razor blades is going to be kind of the workhorse of how you're going to do this, of course. And believe it or not, there are different qualities in the blades alone. And what I'm going to recommend is that you shop for not a good tool holder. We'll get to that, and that will define what style blade shape that you're going to use based on how the holder is going to hold the blade. You got your straight, square style or rectangular style blades versus these style blades that you can see right here. But most importantly, this is a cheap set of blades. And then this is a SK2 spec blade, which is going to be the carbon content of the blade itself. So generic, doesn't really tell you what you're getting. Low quality blade, it's going to dull, chip. Need to use multiple blades over the course, which is key to success too, swapping your blades out. But if you shop for an SK2, or there's another series of blade the carbon makeup and all the metallurgy of the blade, there's an SK5, but I use SK2. It's got 30% more carbon. It holds the edge longer than the cheap ones, and it holds the edge longer than the SK5. So an SK5 would be a blade or metal, steel, that's more capable of resisting like a chipping edge. So SK2 does it. I want a sharp edge as long as I can have, and then I'll change it out as it dulls. So this is SK2. So we have established the blade types, kind of what you want to buy into. I bought this tool, which I still use with the lower grade steel. I just swap these out more frequently due to the blade dulling quicker. But I have, this is a tool I love. It's an old school KD tools. It's number 2106. Just got it off eBay. So there's a lot of replica of this tool on Amazon and eBay or whatever. It's not made by SK anymore. It's inferior. So I just went and bought the vintage tool. And this thing is very, very helpful for holding the blade and allowing you to, scrape effectively and do what you need to do, as opposed to holding on to the blade by hand and, eventually nicking your finger. Trust me, I've done that plenty of times. And then I have, this will be more of the finishing tool after you get your gaskets kind of scraped as best as you can, without marring the case gasket surface. You come in with this Carbide scraper, and I'll show you what the product name is. And the cool thing about this is that you get these carbide triangular bits, and as one doles down, just rotate it, you get 3 opportunities out of that, but you can also obviously buy replacements. So this tool is awesome for getting the last remnants left on the case and doing a very clean scrape that if you do it right, you'll see the machine marks left on the case from when it was milled or machined. So this is a good way to get the gasket removed safely, and you'll know you're doing it right if you see those linear machine marks or whatever machine marks left from when the case was originally machined down to specs. Alright, so at the very basic levels of tools or what you have, you're going to be at the mercy of your hands. You might want to wear some gloves, and you're going to be holding your blade and doing your gasket removal. Okay, so but anyways, I'm not going to do that since I do have my tools. I'll start with always start with your fresh blades. Change often. It's going to help you successfully cut through this gasket. But for the initial, I mean, you can always just kind of go around your case, feel if that's going to lift up for you. If not, the first approach would be to see if you can come at it from a perpendicular scrape and see if that will remove. That's your safest way to go across the aluminum because you're not going to gouge into it. But if you have to come, if it's a tougher gasket, you're going to have to come from a low attack angle. But having a sharp blade, brand new sharp blade, is going to let you cut into it with least chance of gouging. So you're going to come at a low angle and start getting under the gasket if you can. Gently scrape that away. This is, again, this method is going to be slower and more safe. You don't want to go fast, but you're going to come in and kind of scrape away at an angle. You're hoping to kind of catch under that gasket so you can lift it. But sometimes they're just really glued on. It's almost as if they become part of the case itself. So we're going to go ahead and just kind of scrape this guy. I can see I'm removing quite a bit. And if you can't get under it, you can always just go to the perpendicular scrape. And that's, use that method. You can see that I'm getting down to the case pretty effectively on this part of the gasket. Kind of just shaving that gasket. I can see it's coming to the gasket surface pretty quickly on this part. So like I said, when you do it right, you have a high chance of, depending if this has been taken apart before, if it's the first time that this case has been taken apart, if you do it right, you'll see the machining marks, and then, you know, just stop at that point. So I can kind of see where my lines are in my machine. I don't need to go very much further than that. So let's look at another area that's a different approach. Right, so this is a good example of, so far we've only used the razor blade. So at this point we still got some material left, and this is where I'll show you where this scraper comes into play. This is Bahco, B-A-H-C-O. It's made in Sweden, this tool. Bluepoint and Snapon, third parties or whatever, I guess, just have it made and relabeled in their product line. But this is really a Bahco product. You can get it on Amazon. I'll give you the link. So this is a fresh carbide blade, and you scrape towards you. Doesn't cut going forward. This blade is tapered, and you gotta cut towards you. But just very gently run it down the surface, and it will definitely take off what that razor blade can't. Alright, so now we can come perpendicular, the safer way, and kind of just do your scrapes. Alright, so don't do it if you see little flakes of metal, stop. You're starting to gouge. And then we have some areas that won't come up with that blade, so you don't want to keep gouging at it. And this is where you use that Bahco scraper. Just gently take it and scrape towards you. Gasket here, that was hard to remove with the razor blade. Gentle scraping with the carbide. Let's see it go away. Do this one right here. So right here is a good example, if we can catch it in the light, those machining marks, you can see the striations. So what you're looking for when you're doing this is gently start removing, and again, that carbide tip scraper is great at going slow with, and as I pull the gaskets I start to reveal the machining lines. So I know I'm doing a good job of getting that material, the gasket, off and not hurting the finish, the original finish. And if you go around, if the light's hitting it right, you'll see all those lines on this case. And that gasket was on there really hard. But taking your time with the right tools gets you a mating surface that's pretty undamaged for the most part. Alright. So same thing with all of these areas. Some of that darkness is just some staining, but it's flush. So I wouldn't worry about chasing all the dark stuff. If the gasket surface obviously is flat, you're going to have some color transfer into these aluminum. So I probably have about 20 minutes total in the removal of all those gaskets. All that stuff is all over here. So that would be for, you know, the basics of tools. Again, I have other tools that I use. Ultrasonic tank with the heat helps kind of break down the gasket, gives you a better shot of removing it. Sometimes it falls off really nicely, sometimes it still sticks, but it makes it a little easier to get off. So if you don't have an ultrasonic tank, I think even putting it in a like a pot with a heater element, or even like a flame underneath it to get it to a very low, gentle boil of water possibly, or some form of solution, is definitely a way to go too, to break down gaskets on these engines. I have a media box, glass bead, low pressure, maybe 40 psi, around that area. You can finish off this if you really need to. I'll definitely be able to get this cleaned up from an aesthetic look much better if I put it through the glass bead machine now. I also have a granite machining block, I guess, a true block. You can put some sandpaper if you do happen to have a case that's kind of scraped up a little bit and you need to kind of true it out again. I have a granite block with some sandpaper, wet sand it, and just kind of work it around in figure eights and such, get it nice and cleaned up. Some people use glass. Glass is definitely not as flat as granite, a true granite machinist block. But that's kind of the basics. Definitely recommend this tool for sure. Recommend this tool if you can find it on eBay, to keep your hands out of the way and get a good control over your blade so you aren't gouging it or cutting your hand. But I just did this job with these two tools and no chemicals. I didn't use any gasket, softener, etc., etc. So from the very basics, these are the tools you want, and then you can improve upon it based on what I explained I have in my toolbox. But I hope you guys learned something. The takeaway is sharp blades, gently go after it, continuously change your blades out so that you can continue to control gasket cuts instead of a dull blade that's going to end up marring the case. And just take your time. I think you'll be successful. Alright, thanks for watching, guys. More tips to come down the road. Please subscribe if you don't. If you need help with bike builds or part sales, etc., hit me up. Happy to help. Thanks, guys and gals. Bye.